What's up, guys? Thomas here from Trainfuly. In this video, I'm going to show you how stretching the right muscles the right way at the right time can cause an immediate impact on your performance. All right, guys. So in recent years, static stretching has kind of fallen out of favor with a lot of strength and conditioning coaches. And the reason for that is because a few studies got highly publicized and the data was twisted to make it look like static stretching decreased performance. Now, granted, these were quality studies. They had high levels of both sensitivity and specificity. However, they did have one major flaw. They only examined the hamstrings. And in almost every postural dysfunction, the hamstrings are already too long. And if you stretch a muscle that's too long, you will decrease its performance. And I'll show you why in a moment. So these were quality studies. They were just looking at the wrong muscle, which brings us to a very important question. What is the purpose of stretching? Well, the easy answer is we stretch to improve our mobility. And that's true. But in order to do that, we're not just stretching all of our muscles and seeing how long we can make them, because doing that, as I just mentioned, will decrease our performance. It would also make our joints unstable and increase our risk for injury. Stretching all of our muscles also wouldn't fix our imbalances, right? If we think about a warped bicycle wheel, if we just loosen or lengthen all of the spokes, the shape of the wheel will not change. It will stay warped. The same happens with our posture. If we just stretch all of our muscles, our posture doesn't change. Our alignment will not change. Static stretching is a tool that we have in our toolbox to improve our posture, to improve the quality of our movement, and to enhance our performance. So when we think of it as a corrective tool, then we really only want to be stretching muscles that need to be lengthened. And which muscles need to be lengthened? Well, the ones that are too short, right? Stretching our shortened muscles will improve our mobility, but it will also make us stronger and more coordinated because it will improve the length tension relationships in our muscular system and the force couple relationships in our nervous system. Now, we're not going to get into force couples here for this video, but we will in either the next one or the one after that because they play a very important role in performance enhancement. In this video, I am going to show you what length tension relationships are and how they affect performance. Now, the amount of force that a muscle can generate depends on its resting length, and we call this the muscle's length tension relationship. The reason there's a relationship between a muscle's resting length and the amount of force it can generate is because of something called the sliding filament theory. The smallest working unit of a muscle is called a sarcomere, and sarcomeres consist of parallel filaments called actin and myosin. For a muscle to contract, the sarcomeres within that muscle have to shorten. And we theorize what happens is myosin heads form cross bridges with actin and pull the actin filament past it, almost like a ratchet. This causes the sarcomere to shorten and the muscle to contract and generate force. When muscles have optimum resting lengths, they can form the most amount of cross bridges between actin and myosin and therefore generate the most amount of force. And we say these muscles have optimum length tension relationships. When a muscle becomes adaptively shortened, however, we end up with too much overlap of actin and myosin and therefore less cross bridging and less force production. And we say these muscles have altered length tension relationships. When muscles become adaptively lengthened, we don't have enough overlap of actin and myosin, and so they too have less cross-bridging and less force production. So both adaptively shortened and adaptively lengthened muscles have altered length tension relationships, which brings us back to the hamstrings. Because of postural dysfunction, the hamstrings are prone to adaptive lengthening. So when the researchers looked at the effects of stretching by examining the hamstrings, they were taking a muscle that's already typically too long and making it even longer. So, of course, they would see a decrease in performance. So, this brings us to a really important point. When it comes to performance enhancement and injury prevention, we only want to stretch muscles that have become adaptively shortened. So, which muscles should you be stretching? Well, ideally, you would have an assessment done, and I can do these assessments online. So, if you're interested, feel free to reach out to me. Having me do an assessment for you would provide your program with greater specificity and you would get better results. That being said, the body does tend to develop a predictable set of compensation patterns. And so what that means is, although every golfer might present differently, the differences between individuals could be viewed as small variations on the common compensation patterns. So quite often, we end up stretching a lot of the same muscles in almost everybody. All right, so how long should we hold our stretches for? Well, when we initially stretch a muscle, there's a reflex that resists the stretch. This is called the myotatic stretch reflex. I'll show you how it works and how it affects performance when I show you what force couples are. For this video, just know that holding a stretch for at least 30 seconds allows enough time for the myotatic stretch reflex to be inhibited. Now, 30 seconds is just the guideline. Some people might need longer. I personally recommend 30 seconds to 2 minutes. All right, so then how hard should we push or pull a stretch? Well, a muscle should be stretched to the first resistance barrier with a moderate amount of force. There should be no pain. What you're looking to feel is a moderate feeling of discomfort or moderate stretch. If you push too hard, you'll simply intensify the myotatic stretch reflex and the stretch reflex will not become inhibited and you won't improve the extensibility of the muscle. The harder you push, the harder the muscle pulls back. All right, so then when should we stretch? Well, based on what I've shown you in this video, it should be clear that the question of when is not a matter of before or after, but rather whether a muscle is too short, right? Some studies have shown that if we stretch before competition, we can decrease our performance. But remember, those studies examine the hamstrings. What if before competition, we only stretched our muscles that were too short? Well, that would then improve the length tension relationships of those muscles, which would improve their force production, and that would improve our performance. So when should we stretch? We should stretch when our muscles become adaptively shortened. All right, so then based on everything that we've gone over here in this video, this is the stretching protocol that I recommend. 1, we only stretch muscles that are short and overactive. 2, slowly elongate the muscle until you reach a point of mild tension or discomfort and hold that position steady. 3, hold the stretch until you feel a release, a reduction in tension, or an increase in muscle length. This generally happens within 30 seconds to 2 minutes. 4, after an initial release, you may move to the next resistance barrier and repeat up to 3 times. And 5, assess posture, muscle length, and performance and proceed accordingly. This is where I would come in. If you want me to help you with this, feel free to reach out to me and we'll book an assessment. All right, guys, now if you're looking for a golf fitness program that shows you step-by-step how to do everything we just talked about, you can find that over at Trainfuly.com. The Trainfuly program uses a proven 8-step performance-enhancing continuum that will improve your mobility and make you stronger and more coordinated. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you for watching.